Good morning. Happy Wednesday. It is your midweek check-in here at Faith in Real Life with the Faith in Real Life family. Happy Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Peace be with you. It is coffee and conversation this Wednesday morning, March 16th. It is the day before St. Patrick's Day. So good morning, Dottie and Carrie, for hopping on this morning and spending a little bit of your morning with us. How's your Lent going? This is another check-in point. Maybe during your day, you don't have parts of the secular world, your job, or people asking how your Lent's going. So kind of your check-in here with the Faith in Real Life Coffee and Conversation family. That how's your Lent going? I mean, how are some of the things going that you said you were going to do, and maybe check off your list and maybe add to your list. So it's good to just kind of review and see that what you put in place you're doing, or if you need to recalculate and put some other things in place, maybe it's time to do that. Good morning, Sonia. Peace be with you. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful Wednesday. It's been a beautiful past couple of days. Many of you may know that follow me on social media. Plus, a couple weeks ago, I had my grand dog on the air. But yeah, I was watching my daughter's dog while they were traveling, and I took him back yesterday. So it was kind of sad, but he's such a good dog, and he's such good company, and he gets me out. I mean, normally before probably this time, I would have already walked him around the block and maybe taken him down to the golf course and seen the sunrise. And it's such a beautiful thing to do, to be able to be out and about a couple times a day. Good. Lent's going great so far, Daddy says. That's awesome. That's awesome. So yeah, so what I decided was I'm still going to do the walks. I think the people in my neighborhood might think I'm a little nutty, but I'm still going to walk. You know, when I would walk him, I think I walked him like 4 times a day. We would do just like a quick morning circle around the block, and then when I got back from church, I would take him on a little bit of a longer walk out on the golf course because I could let him off his leash. He's that good of a dog. I mean, he'll just kind of wander and walk and run and chase things and come back. So we would do that. And then, of course, after lunch, I would take him. And then sometimes we do another long walk. And then sometime before bedtime, I would take him out again. So yeah, 4 times I would walk that dog. And I think yesterday, the day before yesterday, I had like 11,000 steps. I think it's probably been an all-time high for me. So yeah, I think I'm going to try and continue. I mean, I do walk, but I walk just once a day. So I think I might try and add, another second, maybe not a third or fourth walk, but yeah, try and add something more to my day to, just not be so sedentary. So, yeah, so I just enjoyed my time with my puppy, and today we have our next in the series of Side by Side, our Lent reflections by our fearless leader Greg Wazinski, and they do pattern after the Gospels. So those of you that have your books, or your readings, or you went to USCCB this morning, you know what the reading is, and so I'm going to go over the reading before we switch to side by side, because it is a reflection again on the gospel. So the reading comes from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. As Jesus was going up to Jerusalem, he took the 12 disciples aside by themselves and said to them on the way, "Behold, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be handed over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death and hand him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified, and he will be raised on the third day." So right there, that's like, that's pretty intense conversation for the disciples. But then the mother of the sons of Zebedee approached Jesus with her sons and did him homage, wishing to ask for something. He said to her, "What do you wish?" And she answered him, "Command that these 2 sons of mine sit, one at your right and the other at your left in your kingdom." Isn't that just like a mother? Jesus said in reply, "You do not know what you're asking. Can you drink the chalice that I'm going to drink?" They said to him, "We can." He replied, "My chalice you will indeed drink, but to sit at my right and my left is not mine to give, but for those whom it has been prepared by my Father." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus summoned them and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and the great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you shall be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you shall be your slave. Just so the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So again, Jesus' teachings, not so easy to do, especially back in the day and today. Very countercultural. Our mantras in our times would say to get ahead, to be the one that gets all the glory, and to be served, and to have a place of honor. And that's not Jesus's teachings. So again, he asked them to be servants and to come to put themselves last, which is not something that is counterintuitive, or intuitive. It's counterintuitive. So yeah, just thinking about Jesus's the commands and his wishes, and the directives he left. Everybody's like, well, he didn't leave instructions. He didn't leave exactly how to do this, but he left his teachings. And I think, if we continue to read and to pray over his teachings, we will have that. We will have that knowledge. We will have that wisdom of how it is that he requires us to live in his world. So I'm going to add that. With that being said, and a few more people hopping on. Good morning, Gina and Greg and Faith in Real Life. I think there might be Amy, and good morning, Libby. Gosh, you guys are hopping on early. I hope you had a great retreat last night. And maybe just chime in and let us know how that went. We were all praying about your mission up there. And so it must have gone well if you got good sleep and you're up early this morning. Or maybe you didn't go to sleep. Maybe you pulled an all-nighter, but either way, you're here, and that's all that matters. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the side-by-side series that we can watch together.
If you think about the strongest leaders or people that you admire, whether they're the head of a company or the head of a family, they all have a quality that each and every one of us desire. They're servant leadership skills. Jesus Christ took 12 guys who were all in different professions other than ministry and got them to believe in him and feel the loving presence of his Father so deeply that they've carried on the church for thousands of years that you and I belong to. And my friends, we all desire the same things, whether it's in our business and we want happiness and we want peace and we want success. No matter how we say it, we all want what Christ can deliver. It's the Christ who was the servant leader that tied a towel around his waist to wash the feet of Judas, who was willing to hold the hand of a leper and was willing to get on his knees in order to heal the blind man. That's the kind of servant leader that you and I should desire to be. To take inventory, what kind of leader have you been lately, no matter who God has entrusted you to be with? And then step back, find out where you can do better, find out where you need to walk with them, and see the places that you can be just like Christ in order to heal them, in order to lead them, and to know the Father's goodness. Be a servant leader. It's an amazing thing to be, and it's the only way to be. God bless you, God keep you, and may he meet you everywhere that you desire him always.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So That was that's our side by side today, talking about servant leadership. Uh, so we had a couple chime-ins from the retreat that I just asked about. Libby said it went really well, and Dottie said the retreat was wonderful, and there were lots of families there. So wonderful to have Greg come and Libby at Our Lady of Sacred Heart Church in Orchard, New York again. Awesome. That's wonderful. It is so great to see people back out at events and at ministry events and retreats. And gosh, so wonderful to see that. So thanks for the report. But back to our servant leadership, I just wanted to share a couple things that kind of struck me with this conversation, and then I'll let you guys kind of decide what struck you about it, and maybe look to some of the questions, the reflection questions. When I first started dating Bill, he went to this leadership summit every year, and it was called the Global Leadership Summit, and it's not Catholic, but it's Christian based leadership, and it was based out of one of the mega churches in Chicago, and there was one like guy that used to lead them. And then there was a little bit of controversy, so he stepped down. But then another gentleman stepped in. His name's Craig Rochelle, and he has a leadership podcast. And he's been emceeing this leadership summit for the past, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years maybe. And he has a wonderful ministry. I follow him on Instagram. Just a very humble servant leader. And I listen to his podcast every once in a while. He has a podcast the first Thursday of every month on leadership. And he brings in different Christian leaders, which, I think it's so important for us to remember that, first of all, we're all leaders. Even if we're just leading our own life, that's sometimes the toughest audience, right? Is ourselves. To remember that we're all leaders. We all have a responsibility to who and how we lead. And so that takes work and study and discernment. And I think it's it's a lifelong journey. It's a practice that we need to work on. And I really feel like there are so many leadership lessons in the Bible of how to be a good servant leader. And leaders, can get that clarity around how they need to be and who they need to be as leaders, and that shows through in their teams, in their missions. And like Greg said in the video, one of the things that he was able to do so well was to get people to see his vision. I think that's one of the biggest challenges of leaders, is to get others to see and to buy into your mission, so that they don't necessarily work for you. They try and all accomplish the vision that has just as much, it's just as important to them as it is to you, if the mission is big enough. So he had the other day a gal, I'm not going to remember her name, but she actually started It Cosmetics. And, the headline is like, girl from, waitress at Denny's she sold her company for 1.2 billion to L'Oreal, and now she's the first CEO of L'Oreal. Kind of a rags to riches story, but of course that's just, the very small snippet of a headline, but everything in between. She kind of shared about how she got there. And one of her most important points was to lead with authenticity. She said authenticity doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but being inauthentic will certainly guarantee failure. So that was one of the things that she shared. And she also shared that one of the most important things was congruency of mission and vision. So I just thought, yeah, that's so true, because if you have a clarity and a passion about your vision, and it is aligned with God's will, you will set others on fire, so that fire that you set will run rampant and build, a beautiful ministry or a beautiful career or job or business. And that is so important. So Yeah, Cindy said, leading our own life. Yeah. So we need to remember that we are leaders of ourselves. And isn't that sometimes the hardest person to lead, trying to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, but we know we have to do. If any of you have tried to diet or tried to change a habit, you know how challenging that can be to get out of our own way, and let God help us, let others help us, and to just rest and try and take that quiet time to hear, where he wants us to go. Greg says the beauty of being a servant leader is that you aren't doing things because you expect something back. You lead and are willing to do any job necessary for the good of everyone. That is so true. And I remember, when I was, when I owned my business and I was doing a lot of leadership training, I followed a lot of the old masters of leadership, which were like John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, and so many. I think every single one of them had a Christian background. I know John Maxwell used to be a pastor, and I think Zig Ziglar might have been in ministry initially too, or at least they were very Christian men. And these leadership, qualities and the things that the methods and the mantras that they used were all biblically based principles, which I think is so beautiful. And again, one of the mantras I think was Zig Ziglar, or one of them, I can't remember which one, but he said, if you help people accomplish their own dreams and goals, they will accomplish every dream and goal you ever have. So I thought that, as soon as you really get out of your own way and say, how can I develop this person? And when you're developing that person and helping with their skills, if they work for you, your company gets the benefit of those assets and that growth and that, strength of mission and purpose. So I think that that's so helpful to remember that in helping others achieve, what they're trying to achieve, it's sort of like, when the tide rises, all boats rise with it. There's just no way they can't. Yeah, John Maxwell and Zig Ziglar, two of Greg's favorites too. Yeah, Zig Ziglar. I mean, he had wonderful, wonderful teachings, and I could listen to his stuff all day. It was just so practical and so simple. I remember one of the things that I remember the most about his teachings was he was talking to this woman about how she's like, I need to talk to you. I need to leave my husband. I need to know the best way to do it and how to be Christian about it and blah, blah, blah. And of course, he was, very a faith-filled man and very committed to marriage and family life and all that. And he said, I want you, before you do this, to write down one thing every day that you love about your husband and that you would miss if you left him. And then, we'll meet again. So she did that for a month and came back, and he goes, so have you made your preparations to leave your husband? She goes, leave my husband? Why would I leave my husband? He's the best, most wonderful man I've ever met. So sometimes, again, just reminding ourselves of the best things about someone instead of always harping on the bad things. So yeah, simple things to remember when we're trying to be a good servant leader, trying to be a good spouse, a good companion, a good friend. These are things that we need to remember. And I know Greg and I we did a podcast. I looked back through our notes. We did a podcast on servant leadership. And there's a lot of ways that Jesus shows us servant leadership in the Bible and in the Psalms and in so many of those ways. So just looking back at some of the questions, what type of leader do you feel that you've been lately? These are things to kind of reflect on. And maybe even, if you do have a team or you have family members, or even just to sit down and reflect with yourself, how have I really been leading me lately? Because I think sometimes we need to have our head and our heart in the right space in order to lead well. To lead others well. So, just taking a few moments to reflect. Maybe we have a team and maybe we can ask them, how do you feel I've been leading lately? Are there any, are there any blind spots, especially if you're a married couple? I know husbands and wives. I mean, wives are there. We're designed to see those blind spots that our husband doesn't see and to gently, lovingly bring them to his attention. So yeah, these are things to remember especially as we move through Lent, when we're trying to sort of recalibrate our walk. To make sure that we are true and pure, and following the ways and the mission and the vision that Christ has kind of set out for us in this vision. And then let's see, how can you help others grow in a positive way if you're in the sphere of influence? I heard a term the other day, in business, we're so used to the term of ROI, return on investment. Everything's about return on investment. And I heard a term for ROI in ministry called ripple of influence. Not so much what is our return on investment, but what is our ripple of influence? How can some of the things that we do have that ripple effect on others so that we are making an impact and making a difference in the lives of others? And I think Lent is a perfect time to look for those opportunities of being a ripple of influence. So those are another, things to think about. And that's what I think the daily examen is so good for, to think, where did I win and where did I lose? Where was I sharing Christ's mission and where did I fail to share it? Was there an opportunity that I maybe walked away from or didn't stay long enough in? Or, I think sometimes we can think about that when we reflect, if we take the time to reflect on our day and who God put in our path that day to interact and engage with. And did we live full into that experience, that opportunity to connect with another? So what's the last question? I know if you've lost yourself along the way, write down some changes that you'd like to make. I think that's so important. Many of you know I journal. I'm not a consistent journaler, but I journal. And I'll journal sometimes a week straight, and then sometimes I'll put it down for a week, a month, sometimes 3 months. But I always pick my journal back up again. And I always feel better when I'm journaling, but I don't know why. I'm not leading myself well. But I just think it's great. Especially when you have so much you're trying to process, it's so much better to get it out of here and onto paper. Even if that's the only exercise that you do with it, it is a relief to at least get it sorted out of your brain and onto paper. And I know that when we can sit and look and reflect, that sometimes gives us more clarity. I know in spiritual direction, one of the things that we were taught is really, most people have their own answers. They just have not taken the time to sit down and sift through them and put them in order so that they make the right sense for them. So I think it's important to remember to look, to reflect on things, to write things down, to sort things out. And again, to find the answers that we, truly have and we truly know that we're not seeing through so much of the noise and the things that are kind of piled on top of them. So that's why I love that term. We need to unpack them. So I think that's a good practice as well, to write down things and to reflect just on, and then sometimes to go back and look through some old, journalings and some old writings. I know when my sister was passing away, we knew sort of, it's kind of close. She had cancer for 5 years, and we had come to the end of the limits of everything we could do medically for her. So I journaled. I wrote a journal of that time. It was maybe about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And she died on Labor Day, September 2nd. And every year, I take some time during that holiday weekend to go and reread that journal and just remember my sister, which I don't ever forget my sister, but just to look back and remember where I was at the time, where God was. Oh my gosh, he was everywhere in that time. Just to remember the graces, the mercies, the beauty of that time of passing, which of course, I tried to look at it that way at the time, but it's so hard when you're swimming in the midst of it to see it. But I go back and try and spend a little bit of time each year remembering that time and God's promises and fulfillment of those promises. So that I think is what's so nice about having those journals, is especially when, you've gone through a difficult time, you can look back and say, gosh, God, you don't say, where were you, God? You can see exactly where, his fingerprints were in the situation. So Gosh, I got off on a little tangent there. Sorry. So Sonia, have a great day. She has to run. So yeah, that's some of my thoughts for today of being a servant leader. You know, trying again to be in charge as best you can of the first person you're called to lead, which is yourself, and to take time to think about what kind of a leader you're being, looking to some resources of how you can be a leader. I actually pulled up my Millie's Minute on some of the leadership things, so maybe I'll post that in the Faith in Real Life community when I'm finished today. And they were all leadership instructions from the Psalms, so I will post that. And I wanted to end today in a prayer, and it is a song that I will not be singing, but I will be reading the lyrics. And it is the servant song. And so I just want to read through that as our prayer to close out today. So in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. We are pilgrims on a journey. We are travelers on the road. We are there to help each other walk the mile and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the nighttime of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we've seen this journey through. When we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony, born of all we've known together, of Christ's love and agony. Will you let me be your servant? Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I might have the grace to let you be my servant too. Ooh, I got a little verklempt there at the end. What a beautiful song and a beautiful prayer to end our day with. In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit. So that's what I got for you today, fam. Greg says that's my favorite church song. Yeah, that and the call. What's the commission? I love that song too. So that's yeah. Think about who you're leading today. Again, as I say, even if it's just yourself. Are you leading yourself well? Are you being true to who God's calling you to be? And that was one of the other things. I should post this interview too, because she had so many great insights. She said there's no competition. I am in competition with Millie to be the best Millie God created Millie to be, and to try every day to unearth and bring forth that Millie to the world. So that's what I've got. The summons. Thank you, Libby. But that's what I've got for you today, fam. Have a great Wednesday. Peace be with you. We will have a new Sacred Nourishment segment coming out later today, and I know tonight I have a ministry something scheduled with a diacon that I have to go to, so maybe tomorrow night I'll hop on and go over it with you, so that if you have any questions on the preparation or ingredient challenges, I can go over it with you and share for my new meatless meal on Friday. So amen, I'm in. Thanks so much for hopping on this morning. Tomorrow, make sure you join us for Greg, and Dawn will be here on Friday. And again, if you are enjoying these Lent resources, share them with friends, share them on your Facebook page, share them with your church community, your family, share them with everybody that needs them, and be that leader that provides the resources. So amen. Make it a great day, fam. Peace be with you, and we'll see you maybe tomorrow for the Sacred Nourishment, or for sure we'll see you next week. Peace.